G'day everyone, this is a bit of a different build today. Inspired by a Christmas card and a whole lot of leftover timber that I had from some Christmas boxes, I decided to make a sculpture. And for me as a Christian, the image of the crown of thorns and the cross and the nails are very poignant, and so I'm always moved by the thought of the things to do with that. So I was making Christmas boxes for my jewellery boxes for my daughters and wife and mother, and I had a whole lot of leftover offcuts, and when they'd scattered down I thought they looked like they reminded me of Crown of Thorns. And so I've taken the pieces and I cut them into smaller bits and shaped them all up into points, and then decided to see whether I could make it look any good, and it did. So I've made more than one, and in the process of making some of the others I've recorded it. There is a circle on my bench drawn in pencil which you may not be able to see in amongst all of this, so I'm not that good, but I just super glued and put them around. It's quite tricky and it does fall apart a couple of times. Oh, there you go. But eventually, with the super glue and a little bit more pressure and a little bit more time, I was able to get them together. Part of the reason that it was a bit tricky to get them to stick initially is that there's a lot of bark on them, and there's very small places of contact. So I ended up putting the white glue on and then just left it. And I waited until the white glue was well and truly, so this is just standard PVA, waited till it was well and truly dry and clear again before I manipulated them any further. It took the whole build in real time, I think, before I started editing and speeding everything up into fast time, was 3 hours and 20 minutes or something. So that's everything from go to woe, from the initially cutting the pieces, sharpening the ends of them, and through to having painted and put the hangers on the back of the crosses and being able to hang it up. So these are, it's just, there's no real rhyme or reason to everything. You just glue until things look good. I want them to be substantial enough to potentially look like they're woven, but the idea is just to give the impression. This was a bit more of some artistic expression for me, and it's not something that I do very often. Normally the process is preconceived, and there's a thing that I want to end up with at the end, and I know what I want to paint, and I know where everything needs to go, and I'm working with very fixed things. But with this one it was quite different. After I'd got the majority of them together, I cut some of the pieces that were left over a little bit smaller and made some more thorny things. So the thorns, again, it's just an organic sort of a process where I placed them where they look good, where they stick out in areas that I thought were empty and needed a little bit more of a point to them and things like that. And I ended up with two crowns that I'm quite happy about the look of them. There seemed to be enough colour to them, so between them, each of them, there was the different kinds of timbers that we used. There was some showing bark, so they all sort of had a little bit of colour variation, and it was a nice look. Another thing that was special for me with it is this is timber that we cut down from our property. We had a tree that was needing to come down. It's actually a weed, as it turns out, I think called an African tulip. And so between camphor laurel timber that I had some left over and the African tulip bark and tree, I've made this sculpture. The crosses were made from a bit of tree that I actually fished out of our creek. I don't know, I suppose it's gum, but it had been there for a really long time, and initially when I pulled it out, the whole stump, I was trying to figure out some way to make a table that looked like it had frogs on it. So, but then when I got the idea to do this, I thought, what better way for a cross than to have a cross that sort of feels like it's been around for a long time and started to weather away, and you've only, so you don't have a 6 foot, 8 foot, 10 foot cross hanging on your wall, and two, to sort of go with the old feel of it and the just the randomness of the crown and the things. So I ended up getting the chainsaw and ripping it down strategically. So in places that I thought made nice shapes and gave me good ends that were weathered and things. So a couple of them were a little bit long. I've had to dock the ends off them, but most of them are the length that they were, other than when I chopped them with the chainsaw to get them to a more manageable width. I took the cross member and put it against each of the uprights, and then, as you saw, got the saw and cut out two lines to cut out a rebate so that they rebate together. And this is just chiselling away the excess timber between the lines. So that was done on the upright and on the cross member until they met more halfway, so that when they're stuck together they look more like it was an original bit of sawn timber that had a bit more construction put to it. So for this one, the end had to be docked off, so I went out and sawed that off and then mark the lines on it and do the same thing. I've spared you, just for the sake of time, showing you the process for everything twice. The other one that's just sitting in the bottom right of the screen, you can only see the edge of it. When I did its cross member, I'm like I said, working with timber that I don't know how long it's been in the creek for, but when I chopped out the rebate, it actually split in half. So I think there's somewhere here where I hold up two fingers. That was because it was take two, but I went and found another bit. I was really sad about the first bit because it looked quite good with its piece of timber, but there was no helping it. I wasn't gluing it together. It was a bit dodgy. There you go, take two. It ended up still good. This bit of timber was tricky because there's a hole out of the bottom of it, but when it came together, it just is really nice. It worked for me. They're quite rugged. They look really weathered, and again, as a bit of art, I've had fun with this build. So drill a hole through the middle. Use the borer to just drill a bit down into it so that the screw will countersink. This is a Gorilla Glue, wood glue. You wet one side, you pour the glue on the other. I didn't have standard water, I just had, in the spray bottle I had PVA water, but it worked. And then it was just a matter of wiggling it into place. So after I screwed it down, I realised that I wanted it a bit more squarer, so I unscrewed it, moved it up a little bit, squared it up a fraction, and then re-screwed it on. The screw was enough to hold the glue until the glue set, and they're really solid when they're finished. So both of them were done that way. This is the second of the making the hangers. I did a hanger for one of them that was not these two, but for a different one. That was a picture hook hanger, and I nailed it in, but the cross was smaller and a little bit less weighty, and I was nervous that the nails that you get with the picture ones wouldn't be long enough and wouldn't be good enough. So I decided to twist some wire. It is a coat hanger, just an old standard coat hanger, and I twisted it around and made a loop, and then bent the loop so it was out a little bit. Went and got some, we've got them as, in Australia, as the nails, horseshoe nails that you use for barbed wire when you nail a wire to a fence. Tried banging it in and it bent, so went and got some more and banged them into place and then pre-drilled the holes. I didn't go, the drill hole is smaller than the nail, so it's still nailed in, and I put one in to hold the wire and then one through the loop, so above and below the loop, so nothing's going to pull out. Thought about gluing them, but really and truly once I banged them in it was solid. So that's the second one of those, so they both had it, and then it was up to clean up and put a clear finish on them. So I gave them a good wire, I did a little bit of wire brushing, and I did a dusty brush to get rid of some of the loose bits. When you're painting, it was just really important to seal all the edges because there's so many different angles to it all. I turned them over several times and made sure that the coating, this is a water-based one, went into all the areas and sealed it up. It wasn't so important on the back in terms of aesthetic looks, but I don't want it to be getting water and warping and twisting any further than it has. Although it's been in a creek for who knows how long, it may not be weathering any further or twisting any further. Once that was done, I just left them to dry and came back. Now this is the nails part of the thing. Again, I just got the wood, but I made more square skewers and then shaped them into the nails like that. Did all 6 of them, so 3 for each of the sculptures, and then I painted them black. Now I mixed up in the paint some grit, which you'll see me getting here. This is just the basics, a basic small stone sand for model making that I would normally use for basing on 38mm terrain, and I mixed it into the black. It's really, you can see as I'm doing it that it flicks off and falls everywhere, so it's really quite grainy, but the paint held it in place, and later when I dry brushed them, nothing came off. I didn't get any bits chipping off and falling away, so the gloves were so that I didn't end up covered in black sooty paint. And on a different one that I did a lot of colours on the nails, so I tried to rust them as well, but they actually didn't show up as well as what just the dry brushing the silver over the top of them over the black. When they're done, the silver and the black, it actually looks a little bit like a lead or a pewter, so they're still quite decorative, but there you go, there's a picture of them. After that, it was a matter of securing the crowns to the crosses. I put them in place, I moved them around, again organic, I tried to see which cross looked better against which one. In the end, there wasn't a great deal in it. Running repairs, glue the thing back on. So then it was push them onto get them into place, work out where the contact points were, drill through those contact points, and then super glue the back where it's going to touch, but also get tiny little, they're 1.5 inch small pins, not quite what you'd use for railways, but small, those sort of small nails that you do. So small, so hard that I had to use a nail punch to actually drive them in. But once they were in with that and the super glue, it's fragile, but it's staying on the. I expect them to be on the wall, not carried around banging somebody on the head with, or you out in the paddock or anything. So I think they'll hold quite well just in their static position. After that, positioning the nails, I had the first one that I'd done that I looked at before, but because it's a bit sculpty and because it's a bit. I was trying for a nice art thing as well as a significant thing for the people that I'm going to gift them to, and so it's just a matter of placing them till they look good. In the end, they both looked good with 2 upright and 1 going across on a bit of an angle, and I found that on the previous one that I've made, that when I drilled a hole in and just put the point in, they looked a little bit more like they'd been driven in rather than just sitting on top. And so it was a matter of just super gluing all the places where it did, again hold it in place until I was confident that they weren't going to fall out. On one of them I had to sticky tape them down, but eventually it held. Took some photos just for some stills, which you'll see coming up in a minute, and then that's sort of the process for it all. So same thing again, it's organic, it's just work until it looked really good. I'm really happy with the result. I hope that the people that I've gifted them to are going to really like them and be able to use them. I know one of them did, because when they saw it they said, hey, can you make me one? And I thought, yeah, I can do that. It's been a really fun process, and it was quite interesting for me to take it from the offcuts that I saw that really reminded me, because they were all jumbled and everything on the table, that they just really reminded me of a crown of thorns, to making it into a thing that really seriously looks like a crown of thorns. Making the little bits of timber look like rusty old nails, that was pretty good too. And making the crosses out of the old logs from the creek. So all in all, I've really enjoyed the build and how it's turned out. This is just a slow shot over. You can see all the holes and everything. It's really rustic, I suppose you could say. And so I hope you've enjoyed watching the doings of it all. This is again quite a religious-y sort of thing for any of you that aren't interested, but for me this is, like I said, it's quite sobering, and it's quite an iconic thing for me if I see it. And I was inspired for a bit of art, which is unusual for me to do sculpting art. Mostly it's artwork art. Anyway, when it was done, I hung them up to make sure that the things hung up, which are the photos that are coming up. And there you go. Thanks for watching. If you want any of my regular artwork, it's on Redbubble, that is if it's not taken down. So by all means, go and check it out on Manny and Peach and buy anything you like. Thank you for watching and have a really great day. I'll see you next time.